देख box 2 सन चढ़वा कान पकड़ूं हट
Hello everyone, we will discuss about the GS paper one men's answer writing preparation लेते हैं. Question number 1. With the help and of the status and example that describe the significance of the digital technology to improve the efficiency of the public services approach, candidate can start the answer and by the basic definition and digital governance. जो governance with use of the technologies and also the try to the substantials and with the relevance and example introductions. Use of the digital technology to perform the government activities and achieve the objectives and of the public services is done at the high levels in India as through the governance and government services are made available to the citizen and business and in other convenient and efficiency and transparent manners. Body digital technology in the governance and the public services and digital technologies and have made it the easier and to collect and the collate data and converts into the meaningful and the informations and using the various and algorithm and for example different survey like the census and the NFHS and etc and for the deciding the policies and the interventions and digital technologies and can the enables and data the sharings and the monitorings and monitoring in the real times and helpings in the identified and the bottlenecks and the undertakings and the necessaries and reform for the example and online the online dashboards and for the tracking and status of the project and implementation different digital governance and programs and improving the efficiency of public services. ODI collects and the minimals and the biometrics and data in the forms of the eyes and the fingerings and this has helped and to the executed and bogus and beneficiaries of government schemes and eligible beneficiaries are targeted and ben hence and qualities of the service and delivery system has the improved and immensely and digital and the Sakshartha and Abhiyans or the National Digital Literacy Missions and NDLM schemes and has been the formulated to improve the impart and it is the trainings and to the 52.5 lakhs persons and including the Anganwadi Asa workers and authorized and ration dealers and in all the state and UTS and across the countries the initiatives aims and aid training non IT literate and citizens to become an IT and the literate to the enables and there's the active and the efficiency participations in the democratic development process and the enhances their the livelihood too. The name portal provided are the single window and services and for all the AAP, AMC and related information and the services and this is the includes and community and arrivals and the prices and buy and sell trade and offers and the provisions and to the response and to trade and offers and amongst the other services and the Granthalaya is and the integrated and library management and software development by the National Informatics and Centers and NIC Department of the Electrical and Information Technology. The application is useful for the automations of in the houses and activities of the libraries and to the provide the various online member services and EBIZ and is being implemented by the Infosys and the Technology Limited the Infosys and under the guidance and aegis of Department of Industrial Policy and Promotions and DIPP Ministry of Commerce and the Industry Government of India and the focus of the e-biz is to the improve the business and environment in the countries and by the enabling the fast and the emissions efficiency and access to the government and to the business and G2B and services through and the online portals and the Digi Yatra and has started of facial recognition for the airport entry and on the trials and basis in the focus on the e-biz is to the improve and the business and the environment and in the country and by the enabling the fast and the efficiency access to the government to business and the G2B and services and through and the online portal and Digi Yatra has started facial recognition for airports entry on the trial basis in the Hyderabad airport. Digi Yatra and intend to offers and the air in passengers the seamless and the hassles free and the paperless journey and experience conclusion with the penetration of the technology in the hand of other layman's and e-governance. I am to the empowers and citizens and with the services and deliveries without time delay and in the effective and the manners. And India is the emerging as the countries and with the highest monthly internet and uses. The more steps need to be the taken and to the increase the penetrations of the services in the effective and the efficiency manners. And question number 19. What is your opinion on the recent and decisions of the government and to allow the foreigners? What is our the opinion on the recent and the decisions of the government and to allow the foreign and universities to open their the compasses in India and the critically comment and approach in this questions and the candidates and need to the right and their the opinions on the recent and government decisions on the openings and forums and universities and compass in the India's and examine it is the critically introductions. The government and the university grant and commission decisions to allow the foreign universities and to set up the campuses and in India and is other welcomes move. The initiative will not only provide access to the our students and to the global qualities and education and but the create healthy competition between the institutions body. दोनों का है कब से नन्हे वो नहीं जाना हाँ तुमरो मोबाइल नहीं है का जब मोड़ा ही दे body. The Indian government is set and to the welcomes and foreign universities and such as the Harvard and the Oxford and the Yale to India. Foreign universities and rank in the top 500 globally and as well as the others and the reputed and foreign higher education institution and can set up the campus in India and as the outline and in the country's national education policy and NEP which was the adopted in the 2020 and unveilings the plans. And last week and universities grant commission UGC and chairmans pointed out and there the foreign universities and with the Indian compasses and can only the offers and full the time programs and offlines and not the online or the through the distance learning. A panel cell and the ASS is the application on the merit and including the credibilities and of the educationals and institutions the program and to be the offered and there the potentials and to the strengthened and educationals and opportunity in India and the proposed academic infrastructure and make the recommendations and foreign universities and will also be the able to control the admissions and procedures, the cost of attendance and the repatriations and of their the case and however and they will the need and to the ensures the qualities of education and taught it there the Indian compasses and in is on the per and which the standard of the teachings and it there the main foreign locations and according to the UGC and will Indians the student stay in the Indias and officials in the UGC and said that some universities and from the Europe and had the already expressed and interested in the stabilizing and Indians the compasses and that the government and was holding and the exploratory and talks with others the embassies and the foreign delegates India has more than the 1,000 universities and the 42,000 colleges, but despite and being a home to the one of the world largest higher education system in India, the gross enrollment ratios and GER in higher education is just the 27.1% among the world lowest. The outflows of the student to the universities and abroad has the skyrockets in the recent years, and the better educational qualities and outcomes and award have the driven and the increase, as well as the factors and such as the higher standard of the living and gaps and in the Indians and education system and leadings in a leadings to the supply demands and the imbalance and the upwards and income and the mobilities of the Indian household. He reported by the India and the best business and the consultings and firm the red seats and on the higher educations and abroad estimated, and that the numbers of the Indians and student optings and for the higher educations and abroad gray and from the 4,400 in the 2016 and to the 7,70,000 and in the 2019, and that is set and to the grow to the around 1.8 millions and by the 2024. Overseas the spendings and was the post and to grow from the current annual 28 billions and to the 18 billions and 18.5 billions and to the 17.4 billions annually by the 2024. Many students and opt to go abroad and for the experience and for the incomes and opportunities and overseas, and which is not available in India. Mixed reactions. However, some the educators and are not unsure on how much of and the impacts the move and will have and the believe and the more and the immediate need is to reforms the current university systems and where the individuals is suppressed. It isn't and the clears and that the top. There the top and the foreign institutions and that are the being targeted and by this the schemes and would have any the interested in the coming and to India, and nor that the current political situations is conducting to their the doings, and currently the space for any the independence and criticals and the analysis and has been the considerably and restricted, and this would the certainly and be on the minds of those and who leads the forums and universities and that are the being and invited here. Free reason for the foreign universities stabilizing universities and the compasses is either challenging and the propositions and not to the mention developing the courses and creating the research and the facilities and hearings the faculties and workers and the relocatings and international workers and among other the considers. The new regulation allow the foreign institution and free the play and they are the giving some more freedoms and which is not giving into the Indian institution and for the instant, and they can the fix and their the fees, the admissions and norms and have full the freedoms in the faculty appointment, undermining the systems. The decision by the UGC to the permits and foreign universities and to establish the branches in the India will the harms the nation higher education system and the policy and will harms and the dilutes and the destroyed the Indians higher education systems, leading to the commercializations. This decision will make the education inexpensive and the Dalits and minorities and the poor and will be the adversely and affected. The decision is other reflected and of the governments and the pro rich approved, and it said setting up of the forums and universities and heirs was the unavoidable and in the age of the globalization and giving that the barriers and for the exchange of goods and the services and the ideas is happening, and it was the inevitables and that the educations and would be the last frontiers and where all the barriers and would be the dismantled. Conclusion. India want and the realized and the world leaders and aspirations and by the inviting the prestigious and foreign universities too. setting up of the foreign universities here was the unavoidable, and in the age of the globalizations and giving and there the barriers and for the exchange of the goods, services and ideas is the happenings. It was inevitable and that the educations and would be the last and frontiers and where all the barriers and would be the dismantled and conclusion. India want and realize the world and leader aspirations and by the inviting the prestigious and foreign universities to locate the campuses and instead of the enablings and the creations of international campus of universities from the developed and the countries, and we need to the focus on the becomings of the global higher education destination in our the own rights. Critically assess the effort of the central government in the recent year to the address and the extreme the hunger and the malnutrition in India approach. Start with the basic intro and with the reference and to the scrambles and of the Africa and try to the analysis and how it the lead to the competitions among the European powers. Introductions. In other bit to the tackles and the malnutrition and hungers, government workings and with the several programs and like the MDMs and potions and the potions atlas and ensuring the nutrition of children. Women and the pregnant mother in the impoverished and areas, and the government seems to be the looking at the communities and management of the problems and body. Effort of the central government to address the extreme hires and the malnutrition and case the transparency seems to be the favorite solution for the several social sectors and the interventions and which the includes and the health and the nutrition sectors and example use of the gem and the trinities and Jan Dhan bank and account the Aadhaar mobiles and targeting the rights and the beneficiaries and pregnant women and the families and with the children under the age of the 5 is possible and expanding the choice aid the household level and they make the decision on what to the put on their plates and for the fortifications and for the fortifications or the for the enrichment is the additions of the key and vitamins and minerals such as the irons iodines zinc vitamin A and D and to the staple foods such as the rice and milk and the salt and to improve their the nutrition contact and national nutrition and strategy. The strategy aims to the reduce and all the forms of the malnutrition and by the 2030 and with other focus on the most and the vulnerable and criticals age groups and the saksham Anganwadi and it is the six to the works and with the adolescent and the girls and pregnant women and nursing the mothers and children and below 3 child and stunning in the India's and declining from the 54.2% and in the 1998 and 2002 and to the 34.7% in the 2016 and 2020 and the various child wasting remain and the around and 17% thought out the 2 decades and of the 21 centuries. Failure of the government effort and India already has to the robust and the national programs and addressing the malnutrition and the integrated and child development services and ICDS and the national health missions and but thus do not aid and reach the enough pupils and the delivery system is also the inadequate and the plugs and by the inefficiency and the corruptions and some the analysis estimated that the 40% of the subsidized and for the neighbors and riches the intended and the recipiented and the current and the policies and have the encourages modern and the agri food and the systems to the prices and healthy diet and many times and more than the diet and that the really on Sherrills and thus the restrictions and has made and low the cost and flow foods and with other high the energy and the densities and little nutrition and value and more the populars and pulses are other measures and contributions to address protein hungers and however there is not the enough and the budgetaries and allocations and done to the take us the problems and with the aches and missings and from the means of midday and the meals in various states and the easy and way to the improve the proteins and intakes is the lost. And throg the government and has the surplus and of the food grains, and there is other calorific and the deficiency and becomes the because the allocations and the distributions is not the proper, and even the yearly budget and allocation is not and fully the utilized. Way forward. Getting schemes and write it. Getting scheme right it and the required and greater the involvement of the local government and the local communities. कौन है वो? ये तो इतनी जोर जोर से तो चिल्ला कर रही है जैसे कोई बिल्ली घुस गई. हाँ. And local community group in the designs and the delivery of the tolerated and the nutrition interventions. Comprehensive programs and the targeting at the adolescent and girls is the required if the intergenerational and the natures of the malnutrition is to be taken and child nutrition. The need of the hours is to the mix and addressing the child malnutrition and the top and the priorities of the government and machineries and all the years and around coverages and with the other schemes and nutrition and goes the beyonds and just food and with the economic and health, water, the sanitation and gender, the perceptives and the social norms contributing to the better nutrition. Question number 21. And with the help of the suitables and examples and describe the significance of the digital technologies to improve the efficiency of the public services approach. Candidate can start and the answer and by basic and the definitions and digital government and with the use of technologies also try and to the substituted in with the relevance and examples. And introduction use of the digital technology to pattern the governments and the activities and achieve the objectives of public services is done at the hug level in India's and through the e-government and government service and are the made available to the citizens and business in the convenient and efficiency and transparent manners. Body digital technologies in the governance and the public services and the digital technologies and have made it the easier and to the collect and the collates and the data and the convert it into the meaningful and the information using the various algorithm and for example different the survey and like the census and the NFHS and etc. and for the decidings and policy interventions and digital technologies and can the enables data and sharings and the monitoring in real times and helpings and in the identified and the bottleneck and the understandings and necessaries and reforms. For example, an online dashboard for the taking to the situations of the project and implementations and digitals different and digital government and programs and improving the efficiency of public services and udai and the collects minimals and the biometrics and data in the forms of the iris data in the form of the iris and the fingerprintings and this has helped to the include and the bogies and beneficiaries of the government scheme and the eligible beneficiaries and are the targeted bail hands and the qualities of the government's qualities of the services and delivery system has the improved immensely under digital and the Saksharth and Abhiyan or the National Digital Literacy Visions and DLM schemes has been the formulated to impart IT and the trainings and to the 52 2.5 lakh persons, and including the Anganwadi and the Asha workers and the authorized and rations and the dealers in all the states, UTs across the country. To initiative and the aims and aid the trainings. A training and the non-IT and the literate and the citizens to become and the IT literate and to the enabled there the actives and the effective participations in the democracy. Democratic development process and the enhances their the livelihood and to the name portals and the provided other single window and services for all the APMC related information and services. In this the includes and community arrivals and the prices and buy and the sell trade and offers and the provisions and to the respond to trade the offers and amongst the other services. E-Granthalaya and is and the integrated and the liberally and management software developed and by the National Informatics and Center and NIC and Department of the Electronics and Information Technologies. The application is useful for the automations and of in the houses activities and of the library and to the provided member services. And this is the wings and implemented and by the Infosys and the technologies and limited Infosys and under the guidance and the aegis of the Department of the Industrial Policy and the Promotions and DIPP, Ministry of the Commerce and Industries and Government of India. And the focus of the e-biz is to be the improve the business and environment in the countries and by the enabling the fast and the efficiency and access to the government and to the business and the G2B and the services and through and the online portal lag jaan de lag gayi portals and the digi yatras and has the started facials and recognitions for the airports entry and on the trials basis in the Hyderabad Airport and Digi Yatra and instead and to the offers and air the passengers are the seamless and hassle and free and the paperless journey and experience and conclusions. With the penetration of the technology in the hands of the layman's and e-governance and aims to the empowers and citizens and with the service and deliveries without and time delay and in the effective manners. And India is the emerging as other country and with the highest monthly internet and uses. The more steps and need to be the taken and to increase the penetrations of services in the effective and efficiency manner. Question number 22. How have the recent policy changes the have as the implementations of the National Food Security Act and NFSA and the Ayushman Bharat schemes and affected the access to the basic necessities and the health cares for the vulnerable groups and the critically examines approach. Start with the basic information intro and on the both the schemes and or the start with the recent challenges and then as the per the demand of the questions and the provided the both of the arguments introductions, the recent decisions and of the free and the food grains and to all the 81 crores and beneficiaries and covered the under the National and the Food Security Act and NFSA and till the December 2023 and to the includes and more deeds and the packages in the Ayushman Bharat and consider the beneficiaries for poor Indians and body advantages of the recent changes. Beneficiaries and will now and get the 35 kilograms and of the food grains and free for the next 1 years and other will be the get and 5 kg and for the free in the month till the December 2023. mergers of the PMKY, PMGKY at the enter. The center has the also and decided to do discontinued and the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana and PMGKY and it has now and been the merge and with the NFSA and the employment remain and aid the record and labors and there is the widespread and hungers among the vulnerables and communities. The government extending the PMGKY and also the universities universalize the public and the distributions and system itself and so that the everyone in need and would the receive and the food and the support and the regardless of the weather and they the possessed either rather card or either ration card or not and Ayushman Bharat helps reduce the catastrophic expenditure for the hospitalizations and which pushes 6 crores pupils and into the property each years and helps the mitigates and the financial risk arising out of the catastrophic health episodes and 8 other time and when the world and was the weight links and with the effect of the COVID on its the declines and the insecurities and due to the various reasons and India has been the successfully maintaining and food the security and the health security and with thus the schemes and for the it's the vulnerables and sections and while taking at the necessary step to the keeps and the availabilities and the affordabilities and for the common mans police makers and the expert and the code concede that the extensions and of the schemes and will make other difference and to the food security and the public health and post the pandemic situation and it has been the observed that the social safety and need the provided and by the expansions of the India's and food the subsidies and programs and the unified health schemes observed and the major part of the pandemics is shock critical assessment and of the changes and the overall schemes political elections and freebies and in the month and priors and to the latest extensions and made in the late and September 2022 and there was much debates and on the relevances of the freebies and criticism and point out and that the schemes and extension is within the essay on the elections and in the 2023 expensive and it is a very the expensive for the government to the sustain and the increase the need and for other abundant and supply deep and the deep services these service and the cheap grains and in the 2022 and India has had to the restrict exports of wheat and the rice and after the erratics and the weather hard and the harvest aiding to the pressure on the food prices and rating the global agricultural market increase fiscals and deficits it could pose other risk and to the government and targeted to the further narrow the fiscal deficit into the 6.4% of the gross domestic production inadequate and health the capacities and the ill and the equipped and public and the sector health the capacities and call for the necessaries and the partnerships and the coalitions and with the private sector and provided in the such and the circumstances and the provision of the services and can be the insurance and only if the providers and are held accountable for their the services and the expenditures and the department and aid the center and did not the favors it is the sittings a the fund and the crunch it also and held the views and that the such a the schemes and was no the longer needed in non the pandemics times and conclusion even in the regulars and time and access to the nutrition and food and the healthy security and is the essentially the pandemics or the not access to the affordables and the safe food and the health should not be in the uncertainty and for any the section of the society Question number 23. How the effective and are the exciting legals and frameworks and such as the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribe preventions of the atro and the cities and act of the 1989 and in the preventings and the pushings and discriminalizations and the violence against the vulnerable groups, and is there the rooms for the importance, and if yes, and what was explained. Candidate can start the answer and by writing basic on the POA or the its the objectives and also the highlights. The effectiveness of the act is the curvings, the discriminations, also write the drawbacks and with the some suggestions to improved in the end. Introduction. The act list various the offenses related to the various pattern or the behavior inflicting the criminals offense and breakings. The self respected and the esteems of the scheduled caste and the scheduled community, and which the includes the dimensions and of the economically and democratic and the social rights criminations and the exploitations and abuse of the legal process body. POA was the enacted and to the protect the marginalized and communities and against the criminalizations and the atrocities and the awareness. The POA and has the improved and awareness the regarding the different type of the atrocities and faces by the SC/ST and the ensured the in reductions and in the crimes rate, and because of the resultant and the legal punishment and change in the mindset. The act has the created other positive changes in the mindset of the upper castes and toward the SC/ST and the in empowerment and POA, and has the improved the political participations and of the Dalits and SC and the STs and are now able to avail and the better education and health facilities. And without much and the discrimination, the act has the helped and Dalit the economically and by the increasing the access to the grant and the finances and from the governments and without any the discrimination, and thus the act and has the ensured the inclusively development of the Indian economic and ensuring the right, and the act has the increased and whereas awareness and among the SC and the ST and about the various right provided and by the contributions, and the act has ensured the right to the equalities and as the granted and under the fundamental right of the Indian constitution, and the act has the helped on the protecting the unique identity and the traditional practices of the thus communities. And some of the facts and there the raise and questions and over the effectiveness and of the SC and ST and POA Act. POA Act and is among the most and the misused and low in the Indias, and many the use and this the act and to the settled and the personals and the scores or to the defame and some the incidents, some the innocent and person and increase in the crimes as per the NCRBs and the report 2019 and crimes the against the members of the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribes and the communities increased by the 7.3% and the 26.5% respectively in 2019. State-wise, and Uttar Pradesh has the most and the numbers of the cases of the crime against the SC and 11,829 cases, and which is the 25.8% of the total such cases in the country, and followed by the Rajasthan and with the 6.794 cases and 14.8% of all the cases, and Bihar and 14.2% and the Malayas and the Madhya Pradesh 11.5% conviction rate. And according to the status report on the implementation of the POA and Act the released by the National Dalit Movement for the Justice and NDMJ or the over the decades and prior and to the 2018 the averages and the convictions rate under the preventions of atrocities and act for the cases and of the atrocities and against the Dalits and the Adivasis and remained at the 25.2% and the 22.8% and respectively. Legal systems and the consequently, and there has been a hug backlog of cases in the pertaining and to the atrocities and crimes and either slow and process of the resolving them and the special court and are not the adequately and resources. Scope of the improvement. registration of cases and the standard and operating the procedures and SOPs should be developed and for the feelings and the investigatings and cases, so that and there is no the confusions and or the doubt among the investigators and about the procedures and to be the follow and training and the capacities and building of the judges and layers and policemen and is the required in thus the types of the cases and the prosecutions and successful and prosecutions of the genomes and the cases by the layers and should be the rewarded and research, and there is the requirement for the research and there into the types of the punishment and as and the alternatives and to the imprisonment and that can the prevent futures and the crimes and by the industry by the individuals and or the communities and constitution conclusion. Law unknown the cannot and realize the vision or of our constitution and makes and it is the required and the educational and the economically advancement of the backward and communities like the SC and the ST in India and the education reforms and all over the country and so that the root and causes of the discriminations and can be the deep with. Question number 24 what measures can be the taken and to improve the accountabilities and the transparency of the welfare scheme for the vulnerable populations and the ensure that the resource and allocation for their the for those schemes and reach their the intended and beneficiaries and share your the through approach in this the question and candidates and need to the right and there the throws on the what measures and can be taken and to the improve and the accountability and the transparency for the welfare scheme and for the vulnerables and the populations and ensures yes scheme and risk there's the intended and the beneficiaries introductions. India is considered India is considered and to be a the welfare and state and the governments and brings the schemes and that play a crucial role in the solving the many socio-economically problem in India and the society. However, the measures and need to be the taken to improve the accountability and the transparency in thus the schemes and ensuring and that thus the schemes and reached to the intended beneficiaries and body and measures and need to be the taken and to the fix and the accountability and transparency need to be changed in the economically and policies and with either focused and plans and both in terms of the expenditures and the implementations. The policies are made in the ministries and but the implemented and aid the state district and the village and levels and hence there is other need to the strengthened and the grassroots and the governance and also the proper and feedbacks and should be the channelized and to the policy makers into the modified and the systemics and the flows and the need of the hours is to be the supplement and the simplify and procedures and the incentive vice performance and reduce red need and the make and the best use of the technologies to achieve the desired and goal are the similar types of the central and the state schemes and can be the merge and to the ensures better and the convergence and avoid the leakage. All the measures and the welfare programs and need to the genders and the sensitives the government and must the ensure that donor know the eligibles and beneficiaries is the left and out and those and who don't the required and must be the removed and by the using the technologies and like the artificial intelligence big data etc. Human development and could be the achieved and only and be only the fruit of the welfare and schemes the rich and the eligibles and beneficiaries and कर रहा है क्या कर रहा है क्या कर रहा हो डंडा से फिर India could see the growth in the many aspects only when the eligibles and the beneficiaries and bears the above and to the reap and the beneficiaries of the welfare scheme and introduced by the union and the state government, and there is other general consequences that the transparency a situation in which the information about the decisions making process is made and the publicly and the available and can the easily and be the verified and both in the terms of the rules and the identities of the decisions and makers and the increased the probability of the detections and of the corruptions and the furthermore and the transparency allow the detections and reduce the likelihood and of the corrupts the behavior, and because it levers because it's the lower the information barriers and allowing for the scrutiny and monitoring transparency and differs and the corruption by the increasing the chance of the getting code proactive publishing. Way forward conclusion the poor implementations and of the social schemes in the state and have the resulted in the vast falls and wasteful in the government and expenditures and the limitation and access to the beneficiaries and government and entitlement and should reach all the intended and the beneficiaries and without the livings and anyone's out, and but the government and bill have to the bridge and to the measures and the gaps in the countries and social the protections and deliveries in the orders and to the achieve it the information and the accountabilities. Question number 25. But where the main accusers and the events and of the France and the revolutions, and how did it the shapes and the courses of the modern European histories and approach? Candidate can start. Candidate can start the answer and by giving the ideas of the French revolutions and as per the demands and simplify and write accuses political, social, and regional and economically also the highlighted the prominent event in the rights about how it led the modernization in Europe. Introduction. French Revolution was an the important chapters and in the history of the Europe, and it is marked as the turning point and in the history of the humankind, and the French Revolution put an the end to the age old and the absolutes and the monarchies and the federal laws and the social inequalities, and for the first times and ideas and like the liberty, equality, and the fraternity and were the introduced body cues and the event politicals and religions politicals and despotics and the rules, and from the 1553 and there was other despotics there was the despotics rules of the Bourbons and the Bourbon dynasty in the France, and the complete and the centralizations and of the powers and alienated and all the sections of the society. The competence of the Louis and the 16th and from his the accessions in the 1774, and Louis the 16th had the faced in the burshings and the financial situation and compounded by the money and the troops and sent to the assist the Americans in the war and against the Britons and religious luxurious and clergies and the clergies of the France and were the included in the upper class, and they the hardly had paid any the taxes and had the strict and control on the pupils and social life, and the however the clergies and there's the institutions and where the rampant and with the immorals and the activities and with which the engaged and the common pupils. Roman Catholics and there's the monopolies and the reformists and the Protestant and were the minorities, and since they advocated and the forms and the reforms and the clergy and persecuted and them and even the charges and them and with the blasphemy economic and the feudals and the economic, the government did nothing and to the improve the farming feudal to the neglected and it and the exploited and farmers the substantiated and neglect was the main causes of the serfs and the revolt and against the king. Unsatisfied the merchant and there was the impulse and minor impulse and the minerals wealth in the France and many rivers like the Seine, Rhone and Loire Leon River and Atlantic and the Mediterranean seashores and was the useful for the development of the trade and how it was due to the uncertain taxations and legal the handles and merchant and where the highly and the desertification and with the monarchy events after being locked and out of the meetings and of the state and generals and they moved to an indoors and tennis and the code and where they plug and the show cold the tennis code and oath the bowings and to the remain and there until the new constitutions. Modern Europe and due the impact of the France Revolution and national nations, the states and the Napoleon and carried ideas of the revolutions and to the rest of the Europe. Liberally modern laws and the democratics and the right and protections of privates and property and this in the turn and gave rise to the modern and the nationalism and the pavings and be the creations of the sovereigns and national states and declarations of the right of the man and the constitutional assemblies and come out with the document of the human rights and which granted and politicians liberty like freedom of speech and praise and the associations and the worships and the ownerships of the prosperities revolutionaries and less. Declaration of right of the man and the constitution assembly and come out with the document of the human rights and which the granted and political liberty and likes the freedoms of the speech and praise and the associations and the worships and the overships of the property and there is a revolutionaries and ideas. Thus, idea started in the France and the democracy and good governance and political parties, and thus the parties kept the government under the check and the balances by the criticizing bad politics conclusions. Thus, the importance of the France Revolution and led in the line and the formations of the moderns and the state and based on the liberals and the democrats and ideal and also the indirectly and it laid the groundworks and for the growth of the socialism and the communism and by the providings and intellectuals and the social environment in which thus the ideologies and could the flourish and what are the key factors that the contributed and to the decolonization and process and the how did it the affected and the politicals and economics and the social structures of the newly independent countries approach in this the questions and candidate need to the right and about the factors and that the contributed and to the decolonizations and process and how did it the affected and the politicals economics and the social structures of the newly dependent country. Decolonizations in the actions in the actions or the process of the state and withdrawings and from other former colonies, leaving its the dependent, living is the independence and after the 1945 and many the state in the Europes and the Asias and where the decolonizations mainly the decolonization started in the Asias, Africas and Middle Eastern body factors and led to the decolonizations and post World War II and lack of the resources and after the World War II and many the nations and had the financial crutches and ran out of the financial resources and where the administrations and which the longer could help them and the maintains the colonies. Freedoms and the movement and many the independence and the movement and started in the colonial state and many the countries and took the advantage of that and the education and the literatures and education and the western and literature and gave rooms and for the rationals and thinking and the independence and through and the third world and the many the explorated and the ignorant and state and comes the together and to the opposed imperialism.